Have you ever held on to a really toxic emotion and let it just fester inside of you for way longer than it was welcome to stay, and then have it erupt catastrophically out of you uncontrollably? Well, if you have, I want you to know that, first of all, you're not alone. And secondly, this book is just for you. This is called Let Go by Hugh Van Cuylenburg and the Resilience Project. Let's check it out. Oh, how are we all doing, guys? I hope you're having a wonderful week. And as always, I'm Nathan. This is Walk It Off, where we talk about all things mental health. And this week's book review, I've got a really good one for you. This is called Let Go by Hugh Van Cuylenburg and the Resilience Project. Now, I stumbled upon Hugh's work maybe 2-ish years ago through someone accusing him of running a cult in the YouTube comment section, and I was kind of immediately intrigued, and it led me to see what his message is all about. And effectively, the Resilience Project, as it's come to be known, is about teaching gratitude, empathy, and mindfulness as a way of managing your mental health. And Hugh, sorry for the noisy bit, guys, I'm just near a road. Hugh is a school teacher by trade, and he has been doing a lot of work in child mental health and teenage mental health, and he seems to be doing some really good work. So as you can imagine, I ate his first book up. It was absolutely amazing. And his follow-up book is a very worthy sequel. This one's got a hell of a lot of heart in it, guys. And it kind of really cuts to the core of the issue. And Hugh really digs deep and gets into some personal stories from his life that go through times where he really held on to some really toxic internalized shame. If you haven't read his first book, it's all about how his family overcame his sister's bulimia, and essentially it stemmed from a sexual assault when she was very young, when she was 3 years old, and he was 6, and it happened when they were together in their grandparents' front yard. And obviously, no, it wasn't him, but he didn't really understand what had happened, and this toxic trauma that she internalized led to the bulimia, and he didn't understand that growing up as a teenager. He just kind of wanted out, and it wasn't until they were both in their 30s that it all came out, and he finally actually understood what she was going through and why she was the way she was. And to be quite honest, for such a horrible event in anyone's life, this is a really beautiful thing that's come out of it. Its main focus is internalized shame and how we can let go of it, and how our lives are never really usually as bad as the stories that we're telling ourselves in our head. And we've got to kind of give up that. And it kind of ebbs on the edge of what's called neuro-linguistic programming. Essentially, what that is learning to control the internal story that we're telling ourselves. And if you've got a almost constant negative voice in your head, it's any wonder that you'd have mental health issues, really. And I think a lot of people are doing that today. And one of the quotes that really stood out to me is, "Shame is a table set for one." And as something I really truly do understand. When I was in the height of my addiction, you look at yourself as like a piece of filth, but that ultimately just leads you down a depressive path, which ends up in doing the wrong things because you need that huge dopamine hit to actually get back control of your emotions, and it can rapidly spiral out of control. But here Hugh details the times in his life where he's felt severe shame, but then gotten through it in the end. The primary story is how he then spoke to his sister as an adult, but actually more about how he reacted to her telling them what had happened, and how he, through the way that he was processing it slowly, he kind of like then really internalized this shame of him not being able to do anything. And it's like, dude, you were 6 years old and this was an adult that had done such a horrible thing, so you can't put that on yourself. But it's very hard to break free of that kind of internalized shame, and he details it here. Like I said, this will make you laugh, it will make you cry. I was barely holding it together while I was listening to the audio version at work, but like I said, it has got a hell of a lot of heart in this book, and I think it can only have a positive effect on you for reading it. Like I said, there's some really, truly heartbreaking stories in here. First, him and his sister. It really, truly is a gut-wrenching story. But also the story about friends who was a bit of a larrikin himself, but he was really bright and he had a great future ahead of him, and he was involved in a coward punch incident, and he is now, probably pushing towards my age, and he can't communicate and he's still eating through a tube. So yeah, before you guys, lads, before you go getting into drunk fights in the city, actually think about the consequences of what could happen. He also details a tragic story of one of the students he worked with attempting suicide, and his subsequent recovery with a guest star of notable football fame. I won't spoil who it is, but it was kind of a beautiful connection that these two shared, I think. And I think that deep down this person has a lot of heart. He's just been put under constant pressure, and I don't know, there's a stigma around addiction in Australia, which I find rather ironic considering we have such a prevalent alcohol culture here. But yeah, it's an interesting story nonetheless, and it has a happy ending, I feel. But so in that, if someone you know says that they have depression, the first question, according to the Australian Depression Guidelines, is that you ask them if they've been experiencing suicidal ideation. And if they have, the next question is, have they thought about how they'd do it? And it sounds like a really counterintuitive thing to ask, almost like you're promoting it, but essentially, if they have, it's almost like, please don't let me do this. It's a cry for help, and it's one that we can't ignore. I think in Australia we've traditionally had a bit of a toughen up princess, just go have a beer with the boys and you'll be fine kind of attitude, and it's not working anymore. We can't keep doing it the way we've been doing it, because it's just not working. So later in the book, I don't want to spoil anything, but he talks about flow states, or a scientific phenomenon, and I think everybody's experienced it sometime in their lives, when you've been so engaged in something that you get missing time and you don't realize so much time, or how much time has actually gone past because you've been so engaged with something. It's what's referred to... Sorry, I've got Okay. It's what's referred to as transient hypofrontality, and I can only really describe it in relation to a physics term that comes out of relativity that's known as time dilation. And it's essentially you're having so much fun, or you're so engaged in a particular thing, that you lose complete track of time. And you might have been working for 5 hours, but it's felt like that kind of thing. And he describes flow states as the anti-depression that brought him out, and his experience through taking back up athletics in his middle age. I think he's about the same age as me, about 37, 38. And yeah, I mean, he does have a pretty lucky run in that he gets to train with some future Olympic athletes, but at the same time, he really, really pushes himself and takes the dose of humility to train with them, even though knowing that he'll never be able to keep up. But it's an interesting thing. And I actually really completely agree with him. When I'm in the zone, when I'm editing or I'm drawing or I'm working in a really focused state, it's like putting blinders on. You get the tunnel vision, and it's just, and you get it. So you'll be amazed at what you can do. But it's great to be so focused because you don't get those intruding negative constant thoughts. You're just super focused on what you're doing. And Hugh, I think you may be right on the money insofar as flow being a anti-depressive state. So it's definitely worth your time and exploring. Like I said, I'm not going to spoil any more because this book is well worth your time. So, in conclusion, guys, I think this is one of the best books this year. It's right up there with Love People Use Things by the Minimalists. So yeah, this is a really standout book, and I think it will do you some wonders. I generally try and stay away from stuff that's not got a scientific backing behind it, and I really dislike things like The Secret, as it kind of ends up turning into victim blaming, and I'm not that big of a fan of it. It's kind of one of those things of telling people what they want to hear, but this one doesn't do that. It cuts straight to the bone, and Hugh has packed it full of personal stories that are really truly relevant to his life and to the message he's trying to get through. So at the end of the day, I really do feel that Hugh has now added a couple of words to his gratitude, empathy, and mindfulness, and that is also humility, friendship, and flow. Those things will keep you emotionally healthy and help maintain your friendships. Because at the end of the day, what's a friendship if it's not people who can both celebrate and suffer together? I really think you should check this one out. It's a very, very good book. I very highly recommend both of the Resilience Project books. If you ever get a chance to check out some of their material online, it's well worth your time. As always, guys, I'm Nathan. This has been Walk It Off. Go outside, get better, be awesome, and I'll see you next time, guys. Catch you later.